This is Wake and Hustle. Join us every week as we take you on a journey to listen to real stories
by real entrepreneurs with a powerful blend of motivation to keep you thriving.
What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Wake and Hustle, where we highlight entrepreneurs from all walks of life. I am your host, Alicia, alongside Lovey.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Today we have Jasmine McGiggins.
Hey.
She is owner and operator of Jimmy Jazz Trucking. So honored to have you here, Jazz.
Thank you.
I have been seeing you killing it in the trucking industry.
Mm-hmm.
So excited to hear what you have to say and what gems you can drop for us today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, starting off with how do you start your day as an entrepreneur?
How do I start my day? I make sure I try to get up about an hour and a half before the house wakes up.
Okay.
This is the quiet moments. I get up, make my bed. I have a manifest journal, so I write in my manifest journal. I pray.
Okay.
I just kind of sometimes sit in peace. Sometimes I might listen to an audiobook or a podcast that I'll just listen to throughout the day. So just setting the tone for the day.
Okay.
Because trucking can be...
So tell us, like, who is Jimmy Jazz Trucking? What is Jimmy Jazz Trucking?
Okay, so Jimmy Jazz is actually the brand.
Okay.
So Jimmy Jazz is actually my husband's name and my name combined.
Okay.
So when you hear me use the term Jimmy Jazz, it's literally the brand. It's not just tailored to trucking.
Okay.
Because it's our legacy that we're creating.
Yeah, I love that.
So yes.
That is so catchy.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was what it was connected
Funny
to.
thing is, I have your name saved as your name, but when I go to like text you or communicate with you, I'm like, okay, Jimmy Jazz. Like I'm always referring to you as Jimmy Jazz.
That's how
like,
we talked about you.
Yes,
Jimmy
I'm like,
Jazz.
yeah, with Jimmy Jazz, girl, you know.
That's okay.
Right.
Solid Jazz and Jimmy Jazz.
Yes.
So how long have you guys been in business?
So for Jimmy Jazz, it's been going on 2 years.
Okay.
But I'm not new to the entrepreneur space. In 2017, I actually opened my first business, which is a non-medical home care agency. The business dissolved due to partnership issues, but I've always aspired to just be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, I'm not new to this. I'm new to trucking, but I'm not new to the business part of things.
Yes.
Love that.
So how did you pivot from there to trucking then?
So funny story. The first time trucking was actually introduced to me was probably about, maybe about 10 or 15 years ago.
Okay.
So my daughter's grandfather is in trucking.
Okay.
And I remember him calling me one day like, Jazz, you should be a dispatcher. And I'm like, what? And he's like, no, seriously, you can make a lot of money dispatching these trucks. Now, mind you, this was before trucking was trending.
Right.
I completely overlooked it. When it resurfaced back around, my best friend was talking to me every day about trucking. And I'm just like brushing her off, just letting her talk. And then my husband kind of come back and he piggybacks the idea. So I'm just like, okay, let me look into this trucking thing.
Right.
So, and from there, it was just kind of birthed. I jumped down the rabbit hole and I couldn't stop.
So is that where you started at then, as the dispatching, or?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
So give us the tea.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was doing some research in trucking. I kind of reached out to, a couple people that I knew that was in the industry. And I'm like, where do I start? So everybody's like, well, start with the Sprinter van. Get a Sprinter van. So I'm like, okay, when I get this Sprinter van, you gonna help me? They're like, yeah, just go get the Sprinter van. I wake up and I go purchase a Sprinter van. Cash out, right? I call those same people. Oh, just go on Google. I'm talking about literally wall up, didn't tell me nothing.
Dang.
So I was really discouraged because here I am thinking, I guess, quote unquote, I got some help, some mentors, something to help me.
Yeah.
So I let the van sit. Right. So I'm like, okay, one day I woke up and I'm like, I can't let my investment just sit here. Like, I'm just going to get up and I'm going to just get on the road. Epic fail.
Oh my God.
So I remember when I took my very first Sprinter van load, I was on my way picking my kids up and they called my phone like, hey, can you take this load to Tennessee? So I'm so excited because I'm just like, I'm doing it. I'm ready.
Here you go.
I don't even think I asked how much the load was paying. I think I was just excited to just drive.
Yes.
So I get home, I get the kids situated. I'm like, I'm gone, y'all. I'm dropping this load. It just sounded good.
Yeah.
I was about 20 minutes on the road and I'm like, Jazz, what are you doing? Like, you're ready to drive to Tennessee? Man, so I kind of learned a little bit from experience with doing that.
Okay.
And then I was watching social media. Mm-hmm. And when I say watching, I mean I'm following everybody.
No, for sure.
Transition into a box truck. They like, no, forget the Sprinter van. Box truck's where the money is. When I got a box truck, rented it, put a driver in it, 24 hours, driver crashed. I'm turning it into a drop top.
Oh my God.
What?
That is
Yes. I mean, literally turned the truck into a drop top.
What?
I mean, I was just, at that point, I'm in my head like, what did I just get myself into?
Like, what in the hell?
No, seriously. Like all of the above.
What?
Yes.
And this is as soon as you transition from Sprinter van
exactly.
to box truck.
Yes.
What? Okay.
So you done jumped in 2 lanes that ain't made nothing happen.
Nothing. So I'm like, all right, Jazz, take a step back. You know, after I went through my little phase of crying, whining, or whatever, but you know, I dusted off. Okay, what do I need to do? And that's when the light bulb went off. Like, wait a minute, Jazz, if you learn dispatching, because dispatching is essentially the key to moving your trucks, you're gonna be okay. So that's what I did. I scaled it back and I learned how to dispatch.
Okay.
So that's where the dispatching aspect came from.
Nice.
So I started dispatching, my own equipment, and then I eventually started dispatching other trucks. And even with the dispatching space, like, although it's portrayed to be like, it's easy, don't get me wrong, to get into dispatching, but dispatching is just not Wi-Fi, laptop, and you can start dispatching trucks.
How it's presented.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's what I build my platform on is transparency. Because people would think, okay, I can get a laptop and Wi-Fi and I can dispatch truck. No, it's so much more to it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Learning the different equipment types.
Yes.
Learning the areas that you send in your trucks. It's just a lot that comes along with it.
Was it easier for you think, being that you already had the equipment? So that's kind of how you like, okay, I'm a dispatch for self and then transition.
Through trial and error. And then when I first started dispatching, again, following the trends, right? So I'm seeing all these dispatchers, like, and everybody's flyers say the same thing. Yeah. We just no force dispatch. We dispatch all equipment types. We process your paperwork, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
No. In my opinion, you have to niche down on the dispatching, what type of equipment you're going to dispatch for, because dispatching each equipment is different.
Okay.
The same way you would dispatch a hot shot is not the same way that you'll dispatch a drive-in. You know what I mean?
Okay, when you say equipment, can you break that down a little bit?
Right, because she like, you know what I mean? No.
Break it down.
So there's different types of equipment, starting with your Sprinter van, right? So that's your smaller equipment.
Okay.
And then you go box trucks, and then you go hot shot, CDL, non-CDL.
Okay.
You have your drive-ins, which is the traditional, which is on the freeway.
Oh, those big trucks then. Okay, the ones you're scared to drive next to.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you have reefers, which is essentially like a drive-in, but it's refrigerated.
Oh,
okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you go into like more specialized freight, like oversized.
Oh, so I see. If you say I'm offering all of this, now you gotta know what comes with each last one, because like maybe a big truck that you scared to drive next to don't have the same expenses and things that's like your Sprinter and things like that.
Like the loads.
Okay.
Like it's the commodity that you're moving. You have to know height, weight requirements. There's a lot that comes with that.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
Now I get it.
Yes. It's the pieces gets going. You mentioned that when you first started and you got your first load to Tennessee, you just hopped up and ran.
I did.
So that was in the Sprinter, right?
Yes.
Do you need a CDL to?
No, non-CDL.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you have your CDLs?
I do not, but that is a goal for 2024.
Okay.
So I am going to be transparent. I do want to get my CDL. I do not have the desire to drive.
Okay.
But I do want to know my equipment.
Okay.
I never want to be in a position where I can't go pick my equipment up. If it gets stranded, something goes wrong, at least I'm knowledgeable of my equipment. Exactly. And who knows? I said 2024, wherever God takes me, that's where I'm going. So I might.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love that you have that aspect of being in the student aspect before the teaching.
Yes.
You know, I think a lot of people, a lot of times when you look at it from another one of our interviews, he spoke about it as a snapshot of someone's life. Like when you give it just this is all I do. You just do it like this. It's like, no, you don't know fully what it's like because you're not in that full role.
Yeah.
So I feel like learning from you in the bits that you have taught me, because I've gotten several of your courses, is like I feel like I learn more because you've experienced it.
Yeah.
So you're not just telling me what it looked like, you telling me how it is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's where the whole experience inspired me to educate, because I think that's just important.
Yeah, if you know what you're talking about, you can educate it from a better standpoint.
Absolutely.
So from you being in that space in the trucking industry and dominating and learning that role, is how are you able to navigate that as a woman in a male dominated space?
Oh my gosh. So I'm going to speak from a dispatcher standpoint first, which is kind of like overall, just being a woman in transportation, the respect is totally different than when you're dealing with a man. I remember my first encounter with the broker when I was calling to actually book a load, like I got hung up on. And I'm not saying that men don't get hung up on,
right?
But it's just kind of like a different, exactly, you know, as far as being a female driver, it's scary. Yeah, you know what I mean? I've literally slept in the trucks, parked at truck stops. I've showered inside of truck stops, had a change of clothes. Like,
how was that?
I mean, I thugged it out.
Yeah. So was that a situation? Because like as a you have trucks now. So was that a situation to where you had to pretty much drive for one of your drivers, or that was kind of what you did when you went to Tennessee too? You just
funny story. I had never driven a box truck before.
Okay.
I hired a second driver, put in my truck. I hired to fire my driver in 24 hours. Now, what I didn't think
quick
about,
turnaround.
Right?
I happens in 24 hours.
Oh, I have
bullshit.
This much time.
Yeah.
Don't blame you.
But what I didn't think about was when I fired him, the truck was loaded, and it had to be dropped. The load had to be delivered the next morning. So I called my best friend, and I'm like, "What am I gonna do?" She said, "Jazz, you got to get in the truck." And I said, but I haven't even drove a U-Haul before. So she was like, okay, we're going to get in the truck. And she said, we're going to drive to the gas station. Just, if you could maneuver through the gas station, you could drive the truck. And I did it. And I just, as soon as we pulled out from the gas station, I just took off on the road. And I'm like, oh, this ain't bad.
A little car, a little Prius.
But the truck will beat you up because it's a lot of movement.
Yes. Yeah. So it's Bestie, the same Bestie that was doing the trucks before you?
Yes. She's a trucking as well.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so would you say that it's valuable to be around those that are already doing it? Or
Absolutely.
Okay.
I encourage anything that you want to do.
Yeah.
You want to surround yourself around like-minded people. And I won't necessarily say that it has to be all transportation.
Yeah.
But just business mindset, because it definitely plays a part in it.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for the relationships that I built through networking. Yeah. And one thing about me, I'm not afraid to reach out and ask for help.
Yes.
So a lot of my relationships I built came from me messaging somebody on, on Instagram.
Yeah.
Of course, paid consultations because I value people's time, their knowledge, sharing their experiences, and it's been amazing. Yeah. It's definitely something that you just can't get into and think you're gonna walk by yourself. Absolutely.
I love how you said paid consultations, like you put emphasis on that, because one thing that, I've experienced as well out here in the entrepreneur world, when things are kind of like handed, it's not valued as much.
Absolutely.
It's not valued as much when it's handed to you. So just being around people who, will add value to whatever it is that you're doing. It doesn't have to just be the trucking space, but, you just want to be around like-minded people. You want to be around like-minded people to where you don't feel like your conversation is coming off as bragging.
Yes.
So I love that.
And sometimes it costs, because there's some people that are doing what you want to do have limited time.
Yes. Yeah.
So to get in that space and to learn and to take them gems, you got to pay a little bit, and having that momentum and understanding that maybe I have to pay for this, I could gain an invaluable piece of information from it.
Absolutely. Yeah. When I first started, I probably spent about over 10 grand in mentorship programs, consultations. And my thing was, it was never any money wasted. If I learned one new thing,
exactly.
You know what I mean? But it came a point in time, it was like, okay, now it's time to execute.
Yeah.
Because I felt like now, just reflecting, I think I was like putting it off, pulling the trigger out of fear.
Yeah.
So when I finally jumped out there and did it, I'm like, man, I had this the whole time.
Yes.
I just need somebody tell me.
Yes. Exactly. So, what would you say, or would be a piece of advice where you're saying jump out here and do it, and everybody, we're all in Zooms, we're all in webinar, we're learning as much as we can. What's some advice for someone to just get started?
Okay. Funny, because I just posted about this. I would suggest that people start with a low overhead cost.
Okay.
I think that it's easy for people to see what other people are doing, not realizing that there's levels.
Right.
So, like, take myself, for example. Had I known, I wouldn't have never went and bought the Sprinter van. I would have started dispatching because I've already had a laptop. I already had Wi-Fi.
Right.
And that's where I gained the most experience and knowledge from dispatching.
Okay.
Definitely with a low overhead cost, and just work your way in scale. I always encourage people to get mentorship and just have somebody to be able to call, you know. And I also recommend, like, even when finding mentors, make sure they're aligned with your values, because not everybody is for everybody. You know, and I had to learn that the hard way, you know. So look at their business model, their success, their proven strategies to make sure before you pull the trigger. And don't be afraid to invest, because it's all an investment. I love being able to pick up the phone and have access to my mentors, ask a question, them hold me accountable for certain things. It definitely plays
that part, the accountability part. That's how we started as the accountability call, holding people accountable. But when you think of mentorship, I think a lot of people look at it like, oh, I'm getting knowledge from somebody and then I'm gonna take off and I'm gonna be a star. It's like, no, if your mentor is not holding you accountable to what they're teaching you, that is just another Zoom that you went on that you didn't execute on. So the accountability is very important. And I love that you touched on that. Tell us about your mentorships. You offer mentorships, right?
I do. So currently it's in the making. And the reason being is because just myself going through different mentorships, I want to tailor my mentorship to make sure that I'm reaching, you know, my audience. I realize that some people learning styles are different.
Absolutely.
Right? And I know for me, my biggest problem was I'll be a sponge, but I didn't execute anything. So I want to structure my mentorship to make sure that the people that are a part of my mentorship, we're executing. I'm holding you accountable. I can see the results. I can track the results. And you're going to be successful. Versus you just come into these weekly Zooms, you're getting the information, and once you're done with this Zoom call, you're not doing anything with the information. And I might be trying to create the impossible. And I'm not saying there aren't good mentorships out here. There are different kinds, but you know, I'm just trying to find something that's going to hone in with my specific target audience, which is new people coming into the transportation.
And I think that's the value of investing in yourself with these different mentorships as well, because you're able to know, like, what you didn't get out of your experience that you want to be able to provide to the next person. Like, oh, this didn't work for me, or I like this I would have liked if this was done a different way.
Exactly.
You're able to kind of like tailor that to what you have intentions on teaching other people.
I'm excited. I have a lot of exciting things going on in 2024. I am scaling back from posting so much on social media because it can be a distraction. But you know, with the mentorship dropping, I've actually kind of branched off into like creating like an academy space. So there's going to be a lot of like digital products, free resources, which I've also offered. Even when I first started out, I did like free webinars. My YouTube channel. So I just want to kind of, again, just create a space of transparency where when you come to my page, you're going to get some knowledge, transparency, and the raw. You know, and you're going to give steps that you can actually apply. You know, so
I love that. 2024 sounds amazing. Hearing about Jimmy Jazz, and I can't get the name, it's so stuck in my head. What are the core values of Jimmy Jazz?
So we operate with integrity. We are just all around just family based.
Love that.
And that's what it is. I want to create a legacy for my children. I want them to be proud to say that, you know, they come from a family of Jimmy Jazz.
I love that. So let me ask you this, because with you dispatching, can you just kind of explain that role for some of our viewers who really don't quite understand, you know, the different pieces of the trucking world, because it's a large world and it's a few different lanes. So can you kind of explain the dispatching space and how vital that part is?
Oh yes. So the role of a dispatcher, essentially, so you're kind of like the right hand man for the carrier. So it doesn't just start and end with booking the loads for the driver. So you have to ensure that they're being compliant. So in the trucking world, we have FMCSA. There's rules and regulations. So you have to make sure that your drivers are abiding by those rules. You want to make sure that they're being profitable. Because essentially, if a dispatcher is not playing their role, they can make or break that trucking company, right? So if you're not properly dispatching, route planning, you don't know the spot market rates, you don't know the lanes, the commodity, or how to build relationships, negotiating rates with brokers. I mean, I've literally seen trucking companies be in business this week and next week. I mean, they're calling in tears because they didn't make any money. You know what I mean? So again, this is not something that you can get into and just put down next week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have to really be committed. And it's not like working a traditional 9 to 5.
No.
You know, your job is
What is the dedicated hours you think?
The load boards start going about 7 a.m.
Okay.
I personally get up around 5:30 because I need that time to kind of wind down.
Okay.
I mean, it really doesn't stop. So once your drivers are on the road, you still have to be available if anything happens.
Because you're their dispatcher?
Exactly.
Okay.
So if something happens...
So are you the first point of contact then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. So we work for the drivers.
Oh.
Kind of like a personal assistant, you're all around, you know, we process paperwork. We're the point of contact because you want the driver to solely just focus on driving.
Right. So if I'm the dispatcher, I book a load, I start at 8 or whatever and I get the load booked. I essentially have to follow that all the way until the driver's back home?
Until that load is dropped. Yes.
Okay.
But then you're responsible for booking them more freight from wherever that location is.
Oh, so I'm not like, okay, I'm booking the load and I get you there. I gotta book a load and get you back.
Because
so I gotta book 2 loads?
Yes. You need to make sure you have to facilitate from the start of when that load is booked until it's dropped, and then from that point to wherever else that driver's going. So essentially, if your driver's going home, then you know you're done. But you still have to make sure. Okay, let's say the driver's home on a Friday, right? But about Monday or over the weekend, and essentially a driver, if they're parked on Friday, their truck is loaded with freight to drop on Monday. Right?
Wow, so you're not even done on Friday. You already prepping
even on
for
the weekends.
Monday.
I don't know about other dispatchers. I even look at the load boards on the weekends because you just never know. If I have to, you know, you have to just make sure it's there.
That's a lot of responsibility because,
it is.
You know, for a lot of these, especially like owner operators, you know, they're dependent on their loads because that's their money, you know? So just the pressure of feeling like, do you ever have that pressure of feeling like, I gotta make sure I get them a good load? Like, do you have issues with drivers like that's not good enough? Like, how does?
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the mistakes I made starting out with dispatching as well. So I was so excited about just dispatching, like I didn't have a system in place, even with just accepting carriers, right? So I accepted everybody, not realizing that everybody is not my ideal carrier. We may not be a good fit for each other. I have now grown to a place where I can, you know, confidently turn carriers away because we're not going to be a good fit. You know, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want you to waste mine. And it's not necessarily a situation of where I don't feel like that I can execute in the job. It's just, again, going back to being in a male-dominated industry.
Right.
You know, sometimes the respect is not there, right? There's boundaries that get crossed. You know, it's a ton of things.
Is price point something that you notice being different for you than what you see other people, like women versus a man operating company, or have you never came across
I don't think so.
Okay.
More so.
Price point is just price point. You just got to know the good price.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How did you find all that out though?
You have to just kind of hone in on your niche. So like the different type of commodities, you know, building relationship with brokers definitely plays a part. So for a dispatcher or an owner operator, when you're first starting out, probably about your first 90 days, you're going to be looking on the load board. Okay. If you can get off the load board sooner than that, that's great, you know, but when you're on the load board, this is really like your starting point. Eventually, you want to get to a place where you're starting to build relationships with brokers where they're bringing you the freight, right? And you can ultimately secure a dedicated route. So once you secure a dedicated route, you kind of know what you're doing on these specific days, whether it's a 5-day a week or 3-day a week, and then you just kind of pair it with to kind of create your full schedule, if that makes sense.
It does.
And then, you know, there's different things. You know, you can do OTR, which is over the road. Amazon Relay. You know, some people just only stick with Amazon Relay.
Those are the niches that you're speaking about.
But I always tell people, don't get comfortable, you know, and complacent with where you start, because with this industry, you just never know. So you want to be knowledgeable in a position where you can pivot, right? So when I started out, I did Amazon Relay. I did over the road. You know, I started to build those relationships, have some dedicated routes. So when everything started to shift, I can, okay, this is slowed down, I could pick this up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was never like a down moment.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Whereas people who are used to Amazon Relay and now they're trying to go over the road, it's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
One of the things that stood out earlier when you were speaking on just relationships and just kind of like building those relationships, it sounds like the low board is the beginning.
Absolutely.
That's the beginning. That's not the ultimate goal to stay
Right.
on a low board. You want to build relationships with other brokers?
Yes, with brokers.
With other brokers.
Yes.
Okay.
What does it look like and cost-wise in starting this dispatching? I know you said laptop and Wi-Fi, but like then I heard low board, and I'm hearing, building relationships with carriers and systems, and everybody knows as soon as you click on a website, it's like subscribe now for $28 a month, and now it's a $2,000 fee.
That's funny that you should ask because I did that. Right.
Okay.
I was paying subscriptions and I'm like, I only got one truck. Like, do I really want to pay $199 a month?
So I'm like, what's the cost of all this?
So I actually created something called the Money Manager.
Okay.
And because I did set up my own back office using Google Drive, like, just utilizing what I have, low overhead costs.
Okay.
A low board, essentially, you can get, I think now, probably about $89 a month.
Oh,
Okay. But you can start off with a free trial. So when I educate or teach people with starting with dispatching, do not activate that trial until you're ready to start dispatching, because you can essentially go into this with like a no money deal, right? Because you're not paying for the subscription. You have carriers on board. You can start dispatching them for 30 days and make money. So then you can gain a profit.
Right. So it makes more sense. So kind of having your plan mapped out. Okay. So let me ask you this, Jazz. What piece of advice could you give someone who is looking to kind of like jump out there in the trucking lane, the dispatching world? What piece of advice can you give someone?
Be mentally prepared.
Okay.
Again, low overhead costs. If somebody is just really eager to like, you know what, I want to start out with a box truck. You know what I mean? Just weigh your pros and cons in terms of renting versus leasing.
Okay.
Huge difference. Shop around for insurance rates.
Okay.
Don't just go with one quote. Locking in a good insurance agent is always good.
Yes.
I picked up the phone and called Progressive. They gave me one price. I found an agent. I'm like, I'm going with this agent. And it's kind of cool just speaking to the same person who can advise you.
Okay.
Just stay consistent. I think a lot of people get out of it really quickly without actually giving it,
their full effort. I know
this
that.
was great.
Yes.
This was
I know
great.
exactly what you mean by that. And getting into your calls, like, and working with you has just been like, I feel like, oh wow, she's at me again. I gotta do something. I love that. So with that being said, you have mentorships, you have your academy coming forward, you have the Money Manager. I've heard so many things. How can we get in contact with you to take advantage of these things?
So the best way to find me and get the updates on all the products, to follow me on my social media, JimmyJazz_everything trucking.
Yes. We're so excited to learn and see what else you have coming in store. Thank you so much for being here, Jazz.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And
This
good
was
luck on
amazing.
everything.
Thank you.
Yes.
Wake and hustle.
Yes.
We'll see y'all next week.
See y'all. That was great.
Yes.
Did I do good?
Jim.